Joey Lopez here, all Joey Lopez Fitness. I want to talk to you about two concepts today that we haven't really explored too much on this page. And it's something that I've been doing, living, experiencing, learning more about for the last several years now. Been forming this idea, and my idea is not original in the sense of it hasn't been talked about before. There's not other people doing it already. There's not other researchers that are diving much deeper on specific aspects of these two things. But my way of talking about it and bringing it all together, I think is a unique way of doing so. So what I want to talk about are awareness and well-being. What is well-being? Here's the thing. Fitness has been my obsession, essentially my whole life. I love training. I love working out. I love getting other people fit and helping them with fat loss, with muscle gain, you name it. But that's just not good enough. Because different people have different needs. And when you look at the whole individual, one person, there's multiple aspects of health for that person. I use the example of you can be fit. You could be Arnold Schwarzenegger and have the body that he had, but be depressed. Or you can have all the money in the world, but be starving to death. Maybe something's not right there. Or vice versa. Let's flip that. You could be ecstatically happy because of your mental thinking, your attitude, and because of other things, practices you can do to actually boost happiness. The pleasure of enjoyment, of your sensation of how much pleasure you're experiencing in that moment in your life. But you can be completely devoid of relationship or money or health. So there's a disconnect there. Something's not right. I mean, imagine a monk that goes to the mountains and gives everything up to find bliss, to find nirvana, transcendence. Does that person have to do that to achieve what they're looking for? I do not believe so. So well-being is talking about this wheel of health that has multiple spokes. And on that wheel, those spokes include some of these things: relationship, positive emotion, meaning and engagement, achievement, actually succeeding in life. It's important. We talk about it all the time in this society. It's definitely important. But the process in which you get there is also important. So having purpose in your life is critically important as well. So there's many ways to objectively look at each of those aspects, okay? So here's what we can do. We can say, well, how much of money do you make? That's an objective measurement that shows us how much you've achieved. How many articles have you written, published? That's another objective way of determining your achievement. How about relationship? Well, there's an actual principle of ratio between how many good things you do and say for your significant other, or anyone for that matter, that you're connected to, and how many negative things you do with or for that individual. And depending on the ratio, that's a great determinant of where you are in that relationship. It's an objective measure. So it's not just a feeling that you have for somebody that determines how good your relationship is. So now let me transition to awareness for a moment. Now, awareness, I believe, is one of the most fundamentally important aspects of well-being. Without this, you can't really go to the ultimate levels of well-being. You can't achieve the highest ways of health and whatnot, right? So what is awareness? Awareness is this idea of being present in the moment without judgment of anything, any stimulus or thoughts, sensations, whatever you want to call them, that come to mind or that you interpret from the outside world, while you are continuously aware, that is, that you have attention set, and nothing is particularly a distraction from that attention, but it's included in your attention. There's lots of ways people have described this, and it's sort of an abstract concept. It's tough to understand until you really experience it, but you can begin to start to decode it and break it down. And when you live this, in fact, it's my belief that probably everyone has lived this at least at some point in their life, maybe multiple times throughout the day, but we're just not aware of it because we haven't called it something, and now I'm giving it a name. So, there's lots of research about awareness at this point, and practices associated with awareness, things you can do to improve awareness, and what does it actually do for you? What are the benefits? Let me talk a little bit about what it isn't first. One thing awareness isn't is it's not thinking about one thing. In fact, it's not necessarily anything to do with your thoughts. Something else that it isn't. It's not thinking. So it's okay to think, but what you want to be thinking about, or focus on rather, is what are you doing while thoughts are arising? Are you conscious or aware of those thoughts while they're coming around you? Now, think about your daily life. You're driving in the car, you do your routine on a daily basis. You go to work, you come back from work, you maybe go to the store on the way home, whatever it might be. You're pretty used to your routine, likely. Now, how many times do you notice something new along that routine? How many times do you get home and you think, wow, how did I get home? I don't even remember driving. I don't even remember seeing this particular landmark that I normally see or that is right there along the path, along the route that I take. Well, that's because your consciousness went away from you, or that particular stimulus didn't grab your attention. So and if you were aware, you would have seen it. You would have noticed it, right? And we don't have to call it anything. You don't have to say that it's good or bad or beautiful or ugly, remarkable or unremarkable per se. It just is what it is. And so if you notice it and you are able to just observe it, experience it in that present moment without judging it, that's awareness. Another great example is, think about just sitting back on your back, looking up in the sky when there's clouds floating by. And clouds are changing, they're moving, you're maybe imagining that there's something else, like an animal or something and whatnot. Those clouds are like our thoughts. Our thoughts arise on a daily basis, thousands of times throughout the day. And sometimes we get stuck on a thought, and we think it over and over and over. We obsess over it. We become that thought. If it's emotional, we become that emotion. We feel sad. We are sad. I'm not experiencing sadness. I'm sad. That's what I am. Does it have to be that way, though? Imagine the clouds. They're going by. Are you the cloud? No, you're just an experiencer of the cloud. You're aware of the cloud. You're watching the cloud. It changes. You allow it to pass without even thinking, where did that cloud go? It's gone, and you're okay with that. You let it go. Thoughts can be much the same way as clouds. How we see them is going to be great determinants of how we experience them, and eventually how they influence our behavior. In fact, that could be said for much of the stimulus in our world. There's so many things around. So I said earlier that it wasn't focusing on one thing in particular. Sometimes there's practices where you actually focus on one thing, and that's a way of starting to develop awareness. And this is great. This is something I'm going to talk more about another time. But there's one small problem with that, and that's because it's not ultimately focusing on one thing, and you're not trying to push away other things as considering them distractions. They're simply part of your experience as well. So think you're trying to watch a cloud, and somebody comes up and walks up to you and says, hey, how's it going? And you say, get out of my way, I'm watching the cloud, let me focus. Well, you just lost awareness. Not because the person took you away from the cloud, but because you jumped into that situation in a way that took you out of being aware that you were aware. And so that is another thing that it's not. So there's no such thing as distractions when we're talking about awareness. That's just an introduction to these two ideas, well-being and awareness. I'm going to talk a lot more about these in the time to come and connect them back to fitness, back to fat loss, back to just overall health and feeling well and whatnot. And we're going to start to expand on this concept of well-being so that the whole person is met. And I want to help people. I want to help you guys achieve your greatest well-being through two values that I find very important: compassion and truth. Because I understand that you're in your situation and you're thinking to yourself, I don't know how to get out of here, or I don't even know why I'm here, or I'm blaming myself, or I'm blaming someone else. And I understand that you can think that way, you can feel that way, but I want to show you a way to get better, a way to get healthier, a way to overcome some of the obstacles that you're facing right now. And to achieve that, the other value comes into play, and that's truth. And I speak of truth in this sense, that things that we've uncovered in science and other academia, in which we know very, very, very strong certainty that something is fact. And that because of that fact, we can use that to our advantage to manipulate our behavior, to help us to experience more happiness, to help us to achieve something specific. All of the things that we're talking about when it comes to well-being. So if you have any questions, leave them in the comments below. And if you like this video, like it, share it, send it to a friend that you think needs to hear something about this. And stay tuned for more. It's going to be a fun journey. And I hope you guys enjoy. Thank you. Joy Lopez, Joy Lopez Fitness.